have movies in England?" "Sure they do," said the boy in the beige suit. He was sitting cross-legged on the cabin floor, attempting to draw a liner on a sketch pad. A small girl was curled up on the bottom bunk nearest him. "Films," she interrupted. "They call 'em films." On the third bunk above, a plump 16-year-old girl was lying on her back. She gave a deep sigh. "I wish we could have come back a few months later," she murmured. The small girl leaned out to look at her. "Aren't you pleased to be going back to England?" "I guess," she said unconvincingly. "It's just that Frank Sinatra's going to be at the Paramount Theatre in November, and I won't be there." Rusty, who was lying on one of the bunks opposite, glanced up in her direction. Poor Susie, she thought. She had hardly said a word the entire crossing. Even when she had been seasick, she hadn't whined or made a fuss, but just gazed vacantly into the distance. After the previous night's farewell concert, given by all the groups of children and teenagers to the crew and each other, Rusty had sat next to her. She had watched the others play party games, and had felt herself growing more and more distant from them. Just as we made friends, she had thought, we have to say goodbye all over again. The sailors had given them ice cream. All the kids had adopted their own special sailor. Rusty's was from Brooklyn. Irish, they called him. Rusty had stared through the crowd of children to where he was sitting. He had spotted her and given her a friendly wink. She had forced herself to smile back, and had then turned to Susie. Alarmed at the despair in her eyes, she had put her arm round her. "Susie," she whispered, "it'll be okay. You'll see." But Susie hadn't even looked at her. "I was going steady with a boy at my school," she said quietly. "I miss him so much." And she glanced hastily into the palm of her hands. I may never see him again." Rusty rolled over onto her side and tried to catch her attention, but Susie's face was now deep in the pillow. Below her, a small group of children continued to chat and play jacks on the floor. "You'll be able to hear him much better on a phonograph," said the boy in the beige suit. "If you went to his concert, you wouldn't hear anything for all the squealing." "Gramophone," said the small girl. "They call 'em gramophones." "It's not the same as seeing him," Susie muttered. Rusty glanced down at her open suitcase. A few weeks ago, she had been staying at the Omsk summer cottage right by the ocean. Now she was here, in a cabin that had 36 bunks squashed together in tiers of 3. As she gazed at the contents of her case, she could hardly see them, so blurred were her eyes. She blinked her tears away and wiped her face hurriedly with a handkerchief. "Now remember," Grandma Fitz had said, "you have to think yourself into being a pioneer. I came out to America a scrap of a thing with all I owned in a carpet bag, and I didn't know what the heck I'd find. You show 'em that a bit of that old American pioneer spirit has rubbed off on you." And Grandpa had added, "You don't want 'em to think you're an old misery guts." Only a couple of weeks back, she had been standing on the New York dock saying goodbye to them all. Aunt Hannah, Uncle Bruno, her American sisters, Grandma Fitz and Gramps, Skeet, and Janey, her best girlfriend. Janey hadn't seemed to realize what was happening. She had looked as excited as if Rusty was just making some kind of a weekend trip. They had both vowed eternal friendship and had promised to be pen pals forever. If only Skeet was with her, then she wouldn't feel so lonely. She wondered what he was doing. Probably out in the rowing boat with the fishing tackle. For 4 years they had roomed together, and even in her 5th year their bedrooms had been next door to one another. She couldn't imagine life without Skeet close by. This summer he had turned 14, and his voice had started getting all croaky. Now she'd never get to hear him sounding grown up. Heck! She was crying again. She slammed the case shut and blew her nose.